نسيش. كان حلم جوه قلبي وكان امل عليه بعيش. فوق النجاة اللي هيبعدني عن حياة عنوانها خيبة الامل فيها احلام ماليش.
Nitikia yeye Allah ni nini maana yake? Ni ufuate maamrisho yake na uache makatazo yake. Isiwe unakula haramu, unafanya mabaya, unazini, unakunywa pombe, unafanya ghishi, unasengenya, unasema uongo, halafu unarudi au unaua, unafanya dhulma, unasema yeye Mwenyezi Mungu naomba kadha wa kadha wa kadha. Dua hiyo
FM ilaiska umada.
Kupata kumpenda mtu kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *812 *501#.
Mapenzi si kumpenda mtu kwa kuwa amekamilika, kwani nawe pia una mapungufu yako. Kwa hivyo mapenzi ni kumpenda mtu na mapungufu yake.
Kupata kumpenda mtu, bonyeza *812 *501#. *812 *501#.
Good afternoon. This is Lunchtime News. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Byron Abuli. And we have a comprehensive bulletin lined up this afternoon. Remember, you can interact with us on our social media handles at KBC Channel 1. And now to kick us off, President William Ruto will this evening hold a media roundtable interview with local and international media houses, according to spokesperson Hussein Mohammed. And the interview will air live across a TV and radio stations at 7 to 8 p.m. for the Swahili version and 9 to 10 p.m. for the English version.
Happy 2023. Natazamia kufanya kazi na nyinyi wote, kushughulika na mambo ya Kenya pamoja na Wakenya wote, na sote tuweze kuchangia mahali ambapo tunaweza, kiasi ambayo tunaweza, katika kusukuma gurudumu la taifa letu liende mbele, kwa sababu hapo ndipo uwezo wa kila mmoja wetu unahitajika.
Remember, the interview comes just days after President Ruto marked his first 100 days in office on December 22nd, 2022. The interview will air live across KBC TV and radio stations at 7 to 8 p.m. for the Swahili version and 9 to 10 p.m. for the English version. And now we move on to other news, whereby Residents of drought-stricken parts of Isiolo County are calling upon both the national and county government to assist them to appropriately dispose numerous livestock carcasses. This will in turn aid in averting an imminent disease outbreak. Well, we shall be bringing you that report later on. For now, let's cross over to Kahawa, where small-scale traders in Kiambu County are counting losses after waking up to find their sheds flattened by a bulldozer. Among the destroyed structures is a public toilet belonging to the Kiambu County government and the area member of County Assembly's office, which were pulled down in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep.
The demolition comes in the wake of a protracted dispute over the ownership of a prime half-acre parcel of land adjacent to a nearby supermarket and a matatu terminus off the Thika superhighway. Business owners are pointing an accusing finger at a local developer whom they accuse of carrying out the demolition without issuing any notice or having a court order to that effect. Terming the operation as brutal and inhumane, they said those behind it did not bother to notify them so as to remove their wares.
Wangekuja watupe notice, tutoe vitu zetu zenye tunaona ni za maana. Wakipata tumepewa notice na tujafanya kitu yote, hiyo sasa wangechukua hatua ya kukuja kubomoa.
Mimi ni mfanyikazi wa hii choo. Kama venye imepomolewa hivi, mimi sina kazi na vitu mingi zimeharibikia hapa. So ningeomba kama wataweza kuturejeshea, waturejeshee.
Samuel Mwaniki, the chairman of the Kahawa Sukari Residents and Plot Owners Association, said he received a call at 1:30 a.m. when the demolition squad struck and proceeded to the site only to find the structures flattened.
And we found the public toilet is already demolished, and also the office of the MCA. And call it this one as criminal because they are interfering with the public property.
Among the structures demolished is a public toilet, which was built in 2011 by the then Ruiru Municipal Council and stands on a public car park used by residents and matatu operators. Some unknown people are alleged to have illegally allocated the plot to a private developer.
Na hizo samba waliwacha, moja ni hii. Na isote zimefanywa changing of user na wameuza. Sasa choo imebomolewa, ofisi ya MCA imebomolewa. Sasa tujui watu wote wataenda wapi. So mimi naomba serikali ya county government ya Kiambu waangalie.
Area MCA Kennedy Odhiambo said he incurred losses amounting to over 200,000 shillings, including office furniture and computers, among other items. He said Kahawa Sukari Limited initially sold 1,600 acres of land in the area and set aside 16 acres for public utilities, which they later converted into a change of user status and started selling them. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
An initiative aimed at eradicating jiggers within Busia County has been launched. The anti-jigger campaign targets to improve the hygiene and physical environment of school-going children, the elderly, and less privileged within Busia County. The jigger menace has affected learning outcomes among learners in the county. Speaking in Teso South constituency, Busia County woman member of the National Assembly, Catherine Omanyo, has stated that the anti-jigger campaign will go a long way in ensuring pupil retention in schools.
Mwanafunzi akiwa na vidudu milini haezi concentrate hata akasikiza mwalimu anasema nini. Hata pia marafiki wanamtoroka. Self-esteem, confidence pia inaenda. Na hii inakuja pia paka ina affect mental health.
Inawauma zaidi Hata ukitoa moja mayai dakika 15 imesalisha karibu mayai 30 kwa dakika sekunde kama 2. Sasa hiyo wote akijikuna kama ni watoto waende shule sasa wanaenda kuangalia kwa shosho wakitoa hizo jiggers.
The legislator urged other leaders within the county to join in the fight against jiggers to enable children to learn without disruptions.
Tukishikana na governor na ma MPs anza pia kuangalia jinsi tutaleta ajira kwa vijana, kwa sababu kuishi katika hali kama hii ni kwa sababu ya umaskini. So tulete ajira, tuhakikishe pia lishe tuko sawa, watu wanajilimia, uwezi lima na umekulwa na mdudu kwa mikono na miguu.
Omanya noted that the jigger menace has affected the performance of many children within the county, leading to school dropouts and poor performances. She said by the end of this year, through her office, she plans to construct structures for the elderly within the county as well as treatment to the affected and also distribute shoes to vulnerable school-going children.
Wazee wa matrika na funza, yenyewe funza imewakula kuanzia kwa mikono hadi kwa miguu ili turahisishe watu wetu wawe na afya njema. Ni vile tu dawa ndio haziko, lakini vile mmekuja na dawa, kazi yenye imefanyika hapa, huu ni mwaka mpya 2023. Ebu Mungu aendeleshe huu mradi na watu wetu wawe na afya njema na hii funza iishe.
Away from matters health, residents drawn from Transmara Western Narrow County have disowned a land adjudication exercise conducted in the area by the Land Registry and a select committee. The residents claim the exercise was done in contravention of the existing laws, including ignoring a court order on the same.
Protesting at Esowit, the residents claimed outsiders had been irregularly registered to benefit from the 12-acre pieces of land.
Hawa watu alikata section 2 D and F, na F alishatoka tayari title D, na sijui alitua namna gani.
They further faulted the adjudication committee, claiming it was constituted in Nairobi without the involvement of the residents.
Wenye walichaguliwa kuendesha adjudication section ya Kimindet ambayo imekatwa hivi majuzi ni kwamba walifanya makosa kwa sababu community nzima hawajahusishwa chochote.
The locals have petitioned President through Cabinet Secretary for Lands to withhold issuance of the title deeds until the dispute is resolved.
Tunaomba kwa unyenyekevu serikali hiyo title wasimamishwe.
Tulifanya hayo yote ambayo inafuata sheria, lakini tumekanyagwa. Tunaomba CS wa land akuje atuangalie Kimindet.
Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Still on health matters, the Laikipia County government says it will improve all health facilities in Laikipia North Sub-County to attract patients and deter over-reliance on home remedies. The first to undergo a facelift is the 40 million shilling Kimanjaro Sub-County Hospital that was constructed by well-wishers but for years has been underutilized. During a visit to the facility, Laikipia Governor Joshua Irongo said 10 nurses will be employed from the area to ease communication with most clients who only understand the local language. Irongo noted that the government has moved to ensure the availability of drugs at the facility.
Tumesema ya kwamba hapa hii hospitali itajisimamia, itakuwa na daktari na kuna program tumekubaliana ya preventive health care kwa sababu ya UHC ile tutaleta hapa ikiongozwa na daktari Alfred yule tu ni mmoja wa hii jamii na wa Laikipia County, na tumekubaliana ya kwamba yeye ndiye ataanzia hiyo program kwa sababu hizi program zingine zote ziko Nyahururu na zingine ziko na Nyuki, lakini hiyo tukasema ya kwamba kwa sababu is preventive health care hiyo tutaianzisha hapa North na tutawatoa kutoka hapa watu wa Laikipia North, watoto wetu ndio tutaajiri kutoka hapa tuwaongeze hapa, na ndio hii hospitali inafanya kazi 24/7. Mambo mengine tumekubaliana ni ya kwamba tutaongezea nyumba za madaktari hapa na ndio tuweze hata kuwa madaktari wale wanakuja hapa, na uzuri ni ya kwamba leo tumekuta ya kwamba kuna wale hata admitted patients kutoka hapa kwa sababu tayari 70% of the drugs are here now. That one we have confirmed. Reagents for the laboratory 70% are there, and now we can be able to do tunaweza fanya test ya wagonjwa na admissions zinaweza fanywa hapa.
Residents of drought-stricken parts of Isiolo County are calling upon both the national and county government to assist them to appropriately dispose numerous livestock carcasses. This will in turn aid in averting an imminent disease outbreak.
Areas like Sericho and Modogashe in Gabatula sub-county have thousands of stinking carcasses of animals that succumb to the prolonged drought situation, littering all corners of small towns where people live. According to Mzee Ali Duba, an elder in Sericho area, the task of disposing the carcasses is difficult for locals due to the volumes. Duba says the carcasses pose a massive health threat to the residents, hence urging both the county and national government to move with speed to address it.
Mzoga ya maiti ya ng'ombe imezunguka hii town zaidi ya mzoga 10,000 iko sehemu imezunguka town na pia ndani ya town iko. Kwa hivyo inaweza tokea mgonjwa yote, mgonjwa ya kolera, mgonjwa aina nyingine yote. Tunahitaji emergency reaction.
Sentiments echoed by other area residents who challenged members of the pastoralist parliamentary group to spearhead the process of coming up with a government-sponsored livestock insurance scheme to cushion livestock keepers from undergoing massive losses every time drought strikes.
Mbinu ya kudispose mzuri ili isilete hali ya kiafya kwa wakazi.
Ikifika jioni hivi tunakuanga na harufu mbaya sana yenye inatoka upande zote nne, juu tuna dispose hapa tu karibu. Tungependa serikali watusaidie.
In Kajiado, local leaders are calling on both levels of government to consider cancelling sessions for affected herders, saying most of them are undergoing depression.
Ile kazi kubwa tuko naye kama viongozi sahihi ama hata mimi mwenyewe ni kuzunguka kuongea na wazee, sababu watu wengi wamekata tamaa na maisha, wengine hata wanajinyonga, wengine hata tunakuja tunawachukua muda kila saa tunaongelea, tunamwongelesha, tunamwambia hii ni maisha, tutatafuta tu tena, sababu anaangalia hana mbele wala nyuma.
Hiyo ilikuwa nguvu, nikauza nyasi nikanunua, alafu baada ya mwisho nikaleta nyasi mbaya. Ng'ombe hiyo 20 nikakula, yote sikaisha. Hakuna chochote sasa kwa hii boma.
Opicho Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
The county government of Kilifi has started the identification of talented youth to be trained in various sporting activities in a bid to reduce cases of teenage pregnancies and drug abuse. The county chief officer for youth and sports, Naftali Owino, says his office would start with the formation of under-12 football clubs across the county to identify talented youngsters who will ultimately form a county soccer team.
Speaking at the Chamari Primary School in Marafa Ward during the finals of the Marafa Ward Soccer Tournament, Owino asked coaches of various clubs in the county to start recruiting boys and girls under the age of 12 years.
Coaches wote ambao mko hapa, niundieni teams za under 12. Under 12 ndo nataka sana. Nyinyi tutawasaidia kwa sababu mmekuwa wapevu. We will support you.
Each of the participating teams received awards of footballs and sports kits that included uniforms from the MCA, while the county government presented medals to players who had displayed impeccable football skills. Owino said drug abuse and teenage pregnancies were the results of idleness and said engaging the youth in sports would make them busy.
Lakini tunataka under 12 wale vijana wadogo, hao ndo tunawataka hawa, kwa sababu hawa hawajawahi onja mogoka, hawa hawajawahi onja vileo vyovyote. Tukiwachukua hawa tutawaficha kwa ile sports.
Livestock and Fisheries Development Chief Officer Philip Wario assured sports lovers that the Gideon Mungaro-led government was keen to promote sports in the devolved unit.
Kwa hivyo amekuja na nguvu mpya, amekuja na ari mpya kuona ya kwamba vijana hamtasaulika tena. Tuko pamoja vijana, hoye!
Kama leo tumekuwa na michezo hata ya watu wazima ya kuvuta kamba, lakini nataka niseme kwamba vipawa vyote kwa pamoja, kama ni mchezaji wa volleyball, uchezaji wa mbio na michezaji yote, ni maono yangu ya kwamba vipawa hivi tuweze kuvitambua.
Nominated MCA Esther Kache, who represents youth at the county assembly, said MCAs would support sporting activities as a way of creating employment for the youth. Andrew Kiro for Lunchtime News.
In other news, a family in Chasimba village, Kilifi South constituency in Kilifi County is seeking justice after their 42-year-old kin was found dead in unclear circumstances at Chasimba police station cells. The deceased was arrested on 31st December over suspicion of an arson attack. Allegations from the police that the deceased strangled himself at the police cells have been disputed by his family, who say that this is an attempt to cover up the truth. The family says the deceased body had injuries on his back.
This, you leave your home to find food for your lover who has been incarcerated at a local police station, only to find him dead in custody in unclear circumstances. Only cries, sorrow and groans from these mothers paint vivid pictures of how traumatizing it is. As explained by the deceased wife, Pauline Okeyo, who says upon arriving at the police station, officers on duty laughed her off after she made inquiries about him.
Na yule afisa mwingine alikuwa ameshatoka ako nje gate. Nilikimbia nikamfuata. Nikamwambia afisa, naomba nifungulie nionane na mzee wangu. Yeye naye akaniambia muone huyo afisa. Akaniregesha tena kwa yule afisa mwingine. Ilibidi nirudi kwa yule afisa. Nikirudi napata yule afisa akawa anacheka. Nikamuuliza, mbona unanicheka? Unanitania? Mimi nahitaji kumwona mzee wangu nimpe chakula nirudi nyumbani.
Okeyo says her persistence in seeing him finally paid off. However, she didn't know what fate was awaiting her as she found her husband's lifeless body with saliva forming on his mouth and nose.
Kuingia kwa seli nikimwangalia nikapata kwa mdomo kuna mapofu, macho amefungua, hii mkono ilikuwa amekunja. So kwanza sikumfunga macho, nilianza kumuita baba Kesame ninamtingisha, lakini hakukuwa na response yoyote.
Irate family members are now calling upon the Inspector General of the Police and the DCI to take up the matter with urgency as the crime scene and circumstances surrounding the death are very suspicious.
Nikaenda nikamwona, lakini kulikuwa kuna huo mkono sijui kama ulikuwa umekunjwa. Zile hali zilizoongoza hapo sasa zile ambazo tuliona ni sawa kawaida. Nikauliza kwani imekwaje, wakasema ati amejifunga ukutani wakajimaliza. Lakini mimi ile kitendo kama hiyo sijaona wala sijakuwa na uhakika kwamba mtu anaweza kufanya mambo kama haya. Ndio mimi nataka haki itendeke.
Haki itendeke kwa familia na hao watoto walioachwa mbele yetu hapa na umma ambayo wanasema wenyewe kwamba hawajaona huyu kijana ni mtundu katika eneo hili.
Human rights organizations led by Haki Africa and Pwani Social Justice also called upon the relevant agencies to take up the matter swiftly.
Tunaomba Inspector General, tunaomba CS, tunaomba wahusika wote DCI waingilie kati aipoa ili tuweze kupata haki kwa familia ya Isaac.
Na tunataka kwamba aipoa ifanye kazi na taasisi zingine za serikali ambazo zinahusika kuhakikisha kama ni uzembe wa maafisa katika police station iwe kitu itakuwa.
Probe into the matter has been established while the deceased has been moved to Kilifi County Hospital mortuary awaiting postmortem. Frederick Parsayo reporting for Lunchtime News.
On matters education, a section of private school investors in Kiambu County are still struggling to pick up the pieces after the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic on education. According to investors Barnes Orlando, a number of them were forced to close down their schools due to lack of sustainable capital. Orlando says they were forced to look for lenders to help them stay afloat. They now say the daunting task for them is to align with the Ministry of Education requirement under the competence-based curriculum.
To get funding. Naomba Ministry of Education wakati kuna hiyo mgao, sababu tuko na watoto ambao wanahitaji sana. Kwa hivyo tunawaomba ili ya kwamba wakati wanagawa public schools na sisi pia tukumbukwe watu wa upgrade schools.
Publics are the government funded. We can have partnership with government, just enter in a partnership to see how we can create impact. But for us at the moment we're doing private, just because these are the guys that really struggle to get funding. So we want to meet that gap. We are seeing a lot of interest in getting the funding, so that they do renovation, one of them, and also getting other feeding programs.
Naomba Ministry of Education wakati kuna hiyo mgao, sababu tuko na watoto ambao wanahitaji sana. Kwa hivyo tunawaomba ili ya kwamba wakati wanagawa public schools na sisi pia tukumbukwe watu wa upgrade schools.
Health outreach has been praised for improving access to services in the community. According to health practitioners in Migori County, initiatives such as medical camps are used to strengthen community health systems by bringing services closer to the people. Oriri Sub-County Nursing Officer Andrew Omolo says such initiatives are used to bridge gaps that deny locals access to quality health services. Speaking at a medical camp in Oriri, Health Promotion Officer Edward Otieno said the medical camp saw many adolescent and youth access medical services, key among them reproductive health services. Otieno said youth and adolescents shy away from health facilities, leading to a high number of teenage pregnancies.
So when we go to the people, at least we give them that opportunity to be treated in their own villages where they are easily reached. Yeah, and then those services are also free, so they are not afraid to come because they know that they will get free services and also free drugs.
Oriri is one of the sub-counties with high teenage pregnancy. As the ministry, we appreciate the turnout and the participation of the mothers who came to the clinic. What also came out, if the parents can work hand in hand with the leaders of the community, other stakeholders like teachers, I think we are going to go a great way in reducing the teenage pregnancy.
These kind of initiatives strengthen the community health systems and retrigger them so that they can be able to realize some of the gaps that they probably missed out in their routine targeting.
So there's a lot of stigma in the whole thing that we need to talk to people and tell them that health is their business. And for them to do other businesses, health must be first.
A section of leaders in Tiaty has held a meeting with herders and rangers in the region in an effort to find a long-lasting solution to insecurity in the region. Tiaty Member of Parliament William Kamket says everyone must play their part in ensuring peace prevails in the Kerio Valley. Kamket condemned the recent killings in the region, terming it primitive and an act of cowardice. During the peace meeting, Kamket lauded the ongoing efforts to unite various communities living in the region.
Hiyo maneno ya kijinga ya kwenda kuua watoto wenyewe sisi hatukubali. Mimi nashukuru nyinyi vijana pande hii. Eneo hii yote ya Baringo North na Tiaty tumeishi kwa amani sasa karibu mwaka moja. Nataka mu maintain hiyo spirit ya amani. Na mtu asiwe attracted kwa vita ya wenyewe.
Well, that report brings us to a fast break here on Lunchtime News. Don't go too far, we still have more news coming up.
Dereva, kutumia simu wakati uko barabarani ni hatari kwako, abiria wako na kwa wengine wote walio barabarani. Wengi wamepoteza maisha yao au kujeruhiwa baada ya kuhusika katika ajali zilizosababishwa na madereva wanaotumia simu. Usiwe mmoja wao. Usalama barabarani unaanza na wewe. Ujumbe huu unaletwa kwako na Kenya National Highways Authority. Quality Highways, better connections.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
And now to kick us off, the countrywide farmers registration exercise has started in earnest as the government starts training assistant county commissioners on data collection. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the data will inform all government agriculture policies, including the subsidy and the voucher system programs, as the government consolidates its agriculture agenda.
The government has assured farmers that their personal information that will be collected during the country-wide farmers registration exercise will be kept safe and private. The registration exercise process, which has started in earnest as the assistant county commissioners are receiving final instructions on the modalities that will regulate the registration. The government says the farmers registration exercise will be free and voluntary.
Niona ni muhimu kwa mipango sawasawa ili kujipanga kama serikali kushalisha chakula cha kutosha, kushughulikia mkulima kwa ile program yetu ya subsidy, iwe ni ya fertilizer, iwe ni ya mbegu, tuwe na indandi kamili inayojulikana ya wale wakulima wanataka usaidizi.
Data from the registration exercise will inform policies on subsidy programs and strengthen the e-voucher system. The information from the exercise will also be used to map out specific farmers' needs to minimize wastage of resources and carry out effective pest and diseases management systems as the government ramp up its food security efforts.
To affirm our commitment to the expeditious implementation of this program, the robust and elaborate GAO structure that comprises of 8 regions, 47 counties, 369 sub-counties, 978 divisions, 3,950 locations, and 9,043 sub-locations will ensure a coordinated registration process within the given timelines.
Numerators and administrators have been directed to adhere to the data law provisions during the registration exercise. Frederick Mwoki for Lunchtime News.
The Institution of Engineers of Kenya wants the government to form a multi-agency task force to audit last year's building mishaps that saw a number of buildings collapse in Kiambu and Nairobi counties. The institution's chair, engineer Eric Ohaga, says there is need to study the disaster that will inform crafting of future policies that will regulate the construction industry.
The collapse of 5-story building in Ruiru Town, Kiambu County late last year was the latest building to collapse yet after a series of mishaps in the construction sector that saw a number of buildings still under construction collapse last year. The Institution of Engineers of Kenya now says the government should consider forming a multi-agency task force to carry out forensic audits on collapsed buildings in a bid to formulate measures that will prevent future recurrence. The Institute has also announced a raft of measures that seeks to weed out rogue engineers as a measure aimed at enhancing professionalism in the construction industry.
Identity card, which is domiciled in the Engineers Board of Kenya portal, and that is one identification of a professional engineer. Also, a professional engineer is issued with a professional stamp, where once he has approved a document, then he's able to certify that particular document as having been approved by a professional engineer. So anybody who is deficit of those two items, first of all, the badge which is given by the Engineers Board of Kenya, and the engineering staff which bears his number and name of that particular engineer, then that invalidates that particular engineer.
Players in the real estate sector have been encouraged to only contact registered engineers in their undertaking as a safety measure. Frederick Mwoki for Lunchtime News.
The government is investigating the Kenya Tea Development Agency's decision to borrow loans for last year's tea bonus payout. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the borrowing was illegal, hence factories must repay the loans to protect farmers from incurring losses due to high interest charged by the lenders.
Dear tea farmers earned a cumulative 62.89 billion shillings from tea sales, representing a 42.4% increase from the previous year payout, where farmers earned 44.15 billion shillings. However, the government now says the record earnings was achieved through expensive borrowing by the Kenya Tea Development Agency affiliated factories. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the lending was illegal as farmers will have to grapple with the high interest rates charged on the loans by lenders and may eat into future earnings.
At least that I would say that I have some bit of information which I'm also trying to gather more, and when money was borrowed and by who coerced KTDA to borrow money and where the money was borrowed from. So don't take us back again to those that under administration, which was which I would call was full of impunity.
This as a forensic audit on the borrowing is ongoing, with modalities on the repayment initiated to protect farmers from incurring further losses.
Because to me, that was wrong. It was not right. And we are trying to correct the mess that they created.
To further make the tea subsector profitable, the players are calling on zero rating of packaging materials to enhance tea value addition.
Very soon, we will be announcing as KTDA what we are doing. We want to come up with our own brand, which will become an international brand. And through the intervention of the government and the support of the ministry, we'll be able to really penetrate the market outside the traditional market we have been having before.
Elsewhere, a section of legislators from coffee-growing regions are asking the government to license more marketing agents to trade at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange to enhance transparency and accountability.
Currently, what we are having is the brokers and the dealers are the ones to make the money. And the reforms we are looking at are reforms that are going to ensure farmers benefit, especially the small scale farmers.
The leaders also want the process to have the coffee board as a standalone entity hastened to ensure the coffee subsector is well regulated to weed out cartels from the crop's value chain. Benson Droba for Lunchtime News.
Southwest Airlines stabilized its schedule over the weekend after about 16,000 cancellations since late last month due to its systems-wide holiday meltdown, which cost it hundreds of millions of dollars. Here are the details of these and other stories happening around the globe.
Southwest had cancelled 304 flights since Friday, 2% of its schedule. Most of them on Monday when U.S. airline faced bad weather and ground stops in Florida tied to a Federal Aviation Administration equipment outage. For comparison, from December 21st through December 29th, Southwest had scrapped about 45% of its operation, a far bigger share than other major airlines, according to FlightAware. The biggest challenge they are now facing is going through thousands of passenger reimbursement receipts and improving the internal technology that contributed to the meltdown. Elsewhere, Apple's market cap fell below $2 trillion in trading Tuesday for the first time since early 2021, and 1 year to the day after the company became the first public tech company valued at $3 trillion. Shares of Apple ended Tuesday down nearly 4% after a report raised concern about consumer demand for its products. While Apple's market value has fallen considerably, other big tech companies have suffered steeper percentage declines. Shares of Amazon and Facebook parent Meta are down by about 50% and 63% respectively over the past year. Apple, by comparison, is down by about 31% over the same period. Finally, the pan-European stock 600 closed up 1.2%, with almost all sectors in positive territory. Europe's banking index rose 2.4% to lead gains, while oil and gas stocks backed the trend to end the session down 0.7%. Germany published lower than expected inflation figures for December, down to 9.6% year-on-year, as consumer prices rose by 9.6% year-on-year in December. The price of gold notched a 6-month high early on Tuesday, and analysts believe the rally has further to go in 2023.
Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has signed a $21.83 trillion 2023 budget. Buhari signed off on the 8th and final annual budget of his administration, saying it was an increase of $1.32 trillion over the original executive proposal. Here are the details of these and other stories making headlines across the continent.
President Buhari thanked the Nigeria National Assembly for approving his request for an extension of its validity date to 31st March this year. The bill enables the administration to respond to the devastation caused by the recent national floods on the infrastructure and agriculture sectors. Provisions were made for the 2023 general elections and the transition program. An imminent transition process explained why he decided to sign the 2023 appropriation bill as passed by the National Assembly. Elsewhere, Zimbabwe has banned all lithium exports after the government said it was losing 1.7 billion euros from exporting it as a raw material and not processing it into batteries in country. Zimbabwe has the largest amount of the mineral in Africa and has enough of it to supply a fifth of the world's needs, its government says. Whilst on track to become one of the world's largest lithium exporters, the country's government says it should start its own battery industry rather than allow foreign companies to dominate battery production. And finally, the Tunisian government has offered projects to produce 1,700 megawatts of renewable energies during the year 2023 to 2025, with investments worth $5 billion, which is equivalent to $1.6 billion. This target is in line with the Tunisian solar plan that was launched following the signing of the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. So far, the Tunisian government has launched tenders for a total capacity of 1,100 megawatts, of which 500 megawatts should be developed under concessional contracts, 400 megawatts under the authorization system, and 200 megawatts under the self-generation system. Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
Thousands of mourners lined the streets as Brazilian football icon Pele was laid to rest in Santos, the city of his former club. Pele was buried on the 9th floor of the vertical cemetery at the Ecumenical Memorial Necropolis building in Santos. The three-time World Cup winner died at the age of 82 on 29th December.
Pele had been lying in state in the center of the pitch at the club's Albano Caldeira Stadium for the public to pay their respects. People crowded the streets on Tuesday as his coffin, covered with a Brazilian flag, was carried on a fire truck to a private family funeral. Pele, a three-time World Cup winner, died at the age of 82 on 29th December. Arguably, the world's greatest ever footballer, he had been receiving treatment for colon cancer since 2021. Brazil's government declared 3 days of national mourning after his death, and the country's new president, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, traveled to Santos to pay his respects. Santos FC said more than 230,000 people had attended the 24-hour wake in the Vila Belmiro Stadium, where a steady stream of mourners continued through the night. The funeral cottage ended at the Port City Memorial Cemetery, where a Catholic funeral service was held before Pele was buried in a 10-story mausoleum that holds the Guinness World Record as the tallest cemetery on earth.
May he rest in peace. Now, moving on, Manchester United defender Luke Shaw says the belief and confidence is back at Old Trafford after they stretched their winning run in all competitions to 6 games with a comfortable 3-0 victory over Bournemouth in the English Premier League. Meanwhile, Arsenal was held to a goalless draw by Newcastle at Emirates Stadium but still extended their lead to 8 points at the top of the Premier League standings.
Begins at Old Trafford. Optimism is rising.
Midfielder Casemiro latched onto a Christian Eriksen free kick with a beautifully cushioned volley to put Erik ten Hag's side ahead halfway through the first half. Luke Shaw doubled their lead 4 minutes into the second period before Marcus Rashford rounded off the scoring to score in 3 successive Old Trafford League games for the first time.
Fernandes is onto it, plays across. Rashford!
Meanwhile, Fulham match winner Alexander Mitrovic said his side want to keep the dream going after their Fulham's latest win means they now sit on 28 points, level with Liverpool and in the Europa Conference League spot. Meanwhile, Brighton piled the pressure on Everton manager Frank Lampard with an emphatic 4-1 victory at Goodison Park. Kaoru Mitoma gave the Seagulls the lead with Ivan Ferguson, Solly March and Pascal Gross scoring a goal each before Demarai Gray converted a late penalty for Everton.
For Everton, yes, battered home beyond.
In another match, Newcastle United frustrated Premier League leaders Arsenal to earn a point at Emirates Stadium.
Bruno to the left. Bruno now goes down outside the box. Play on.
Now, President William Ruto will Wednesday evening hold a media roundtable interview with local and international media houses. Remember, this comes just a few days after President Ruto marked his first 100 days in office on December 22nd, 2022. Well, here are some of the expectations of Kenyans ahead of the president's interview.
Zaidi ya yote aguzie mambo ya vijana, cause as guys kama tutakuwa tunasomesha watoto wetu, then all of a sudden they are not included in the so-called development na kuajiriwa makazi. Tunaona akichukua wale ambao ni retired generals.
Nataka kuzingatia kuhusu maisha ya kila siku, kwa maana tulichagua serikali ya hasla ili ishughulikie mambo ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
Article 53 provides for free and compulsory basic education. We want to see free primary, secondary education within the systems.
Well, those are some of the expectations of Kenyans ahead of the president's interview. Remember, the interview will air live across KBC TV and radio stations at 7 to 8 p.m. for the Swahili version and 9 to 10 p.m. for the English version. Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Thank you for choosing Lunchtime News. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Byron Abuli. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. Have a lovely afternoon.
You say I am. You're a liar. You're a liar. Don't come any closer. If you look, I swear to you that I will find out who the lover of Melena is.
Tell me something, my son. What is it with Amparo? Do you like her as a woman?
This is my husband, Oligario Montoya.
Corina, I really want to apologize for the way I acted earlier. I know it was in bad form.
What do you mean when you said we'll get married in 45 days? I don't get it.
I don't see the problem, my love. I only want to know who the heck is that man, Alonso Caceres. If he came here only to care for the horses.
I did that to teach you a little bit about respect.
ما تتنسيش كان حلم جوه قلبي وكان امل عليه بعيش فوق النجاة اللي هيبعدني عن حياة عنوانها خيبة الامل فيها احلام ماليش جريت
Nitikia yeye Allah ni nini maana yake ni ufuate maamrisho yake na uache makatazo yake isiwe unakula haramu